World War II has been a go-to setting for first-person shooters almost since the genre's beginnings, but very few games have recreated the sensation of taking part in the world's largest armed conflict quite like Red Orchestra 2: Heroes of Stalingrad. Does its authenticity make for a uniquely rewarding experience? Or does it leave fun to die on the battlefield?
But Ivan is not going to surrender this sorry pile of bricks without a fight, so we'll have to take it from him.
Unlike its predecessor, Red Orchestra 2 features two lightweight single-player campaigns that relate the story of the Battle of Stalingrad through either German or Soviet eyes. But neither feels like anything more than a robust tutorial mode for the stellar multiplayer game. The AI is clunky at best, even with the inclusion of a tactical interface for giving specific orders to your squad, and it's not uncommon to see NPC soldiers clumping up in doorways or making a suicidal break for the nearest spray of machine gun fire. The campaigns also aren't terribly challenging, at least on the lower difficulties. Frequent reinforcements mean that you can more or less kick back and let your squad do most of the work if you wish, and the game's practice of respawning you into the bodies of one of your remaining squad members means that you frequently end up ahead of your last position. That's not to say that you won't find a few highlights scattered about the rubble, but you'll likely want to pit yourself against players with actual brains before you even unlock the Soviet campaign.
How are you holding up?
Indeed, Red Orchestra 2 comes into its own in multiplayer. While many other multiplayer-focused first-person shooters seem to consist of dozens of players running around doing their own thing, Red Orchestra 2 demands constant communication between players. You'll find no crosshairs here, nor will you have a heads-up display barking handy information. You can reveal some objectives for convenience, but feedback is otherwise limited to a health bar and a scoring icon that lets you know how the battle is going. And these aren't small battles either. Each team can have a maximum of 32 players on each side, with matches altering greatly depending on if you play the deathmatch-style firefight mode, the objective-based territories mode, or a harrowing countdown mode that prohibits any respawns. The key to winning here is a grasp of finely tuned survival skills, not Duke Nukem-style machismo, and you can even find yourself promoted to hero status if you perform well enough over several missions. If you simply try to run in with your guns blazing, however, then you shouldn't be surprised if the game feels less like a traditional FPS and more like the opening sequence to Saving Private Ryan. It bears mention that some of the game's auxiliary features have yet to be implemented. Options such as cooperative play won't be released for a few weeks, and offline challenges such as shooting ranges are still in development. At the very worst, you'll sometimes find yourself scratching your head over the absence of a useful in-game manual beyond the brief tutorial mission.
Move up to your squad on the objective. Cover is all important. It can hide you and save your life.
Nothing distinguishes Red Orchestra 2 from its FPS cousins quite like its clever implementation of a first-person cover mechanic. With just a click of the control button, you can use almost every surface to shield yourself from the endless storms of bullets. The basic mechanic is somewhat reminiscent of Gears of War, but the first-person perspective means that the act of firing from cover is every bit as rife with luck and caution as you'd expect it to be in real life. You can also prop up a weapon against a surface for added stability while under cover, or hold your breath to fire a steady shot. Couple these choices with a full arsenal of movement options ranging from diving, lying prone, and crouching, and you'll find that the act of offing a troublesome sniper is far more rewarding than it is in many other games.
Get him!
But keep in mind that this isn't a game aimed at the casual shooter fan. Brutal, unforgiving, and tense, Red Orchestra 2's multiplayer battles usually consist of stretches of deadly calm, punctuated with the lightning crack of bullets that can kill you in 1 or 2 shots. You can patch a bleeding wound if one of these bullets hits you, but only on the off chance that you manage to survive the shot in the first place. Even if you do, you might find yourself in the grip of a morale system that triggers if you're stuck under suppression fire or enduring disasters such as fellow players dying around you. As the situation grows worse, your vision begins to blur, the screen goes gray, and you're left fairly incapacitated until you manage to regain a hold of your senses. War is hell, Tripwire seems to say, and they're not going to let you forget it. If only you could forget about the annoying bugs that mar its otherwise excellent gameplay. Tripwire has been quick to release meaty patches almost every other day in the week or so since the game's launch, but even now you'll have to endure sluggish bouts of lag and the loss of your stats in multiplayer mode. Red Orchestra 2 is a striking game despite its somewhat outdated textures, but it makes up for any technical deficiencies with a stunning sense of place. Whether you're prowling through the bleak confines of an embattled train yard or roving over snowy wastes with a tank, you'll be hard-pressed not to admire Tripwire's efforts to bring the dismal Eastern Front back to life. Even hopping into one of those tanks reveals a passion for the nuts and bolts of 1940s hardware, whether through the loving detail bestowed on the dials and rivets, or the claustrophobic ambiance that weighs on you as you steer the cramped metal monstrosities. The sound, too, is phenomenal, featuring rifle blasts that'll make you jump in your seat, and footsteps that sound much as you'd expect them to in real life. Other games have toyed with realistic wartime combat, but very few have hit the sweet spot between fun and realism quite like this. To be sure, it's not a game for everyone, but Red Orchestra 2 proves that the venerable World War II genre of first-person shooters still has a bit of good ammunition stored in its heavy guns. Tripwire still has some work ahead in regards to polishing the game's rough edges, but Red Orchestra 2 is already brutally satisfying to play.